What's up, everybody, and welcome to episode 23 of the Sailor Jerry podcast. We have officially reached Michael Jordan Jumpman GOAT status, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Matt Cothran. I am still your host. Don't forget that Sailor Jerry spiced rum is made the old school way, 92 proof, bold and smooth as hell. I hope everybody out there is doing good. It's been a busy but awesome couple weeks for your boy. Still buzzing from Danzig on Halloween night at the Roosevelt Hotel, singing Elvis songs. That could be a podcast episode unto its own, ladies and gentlemen. What a night. Bronx is releasing some singles. We got a lot of stuff coming up. Getting ready to head to Buffalo for the Tid the Season shows that are in December. Speaking of Tid the Season, Every Time I Die put out an incredible double album called Radical. If you haven't listened to that record yet, do yourself a favor and go check it out. What else is going on? I went to Punk in the Park this weekend at Oak Canyon Ranch. Saw some awesome friends. Listened to some great tunes. It felt really, really good to be out in the mix, watching shows slowly but surely. It just feels like things are getting back to normal again. You know, it's nice. 12,000 people sold out. Crazy. So congratulations to Punk in the Park on putting together an awesome event. Elon Musk trying to solve world hunger with $6 billion. Stay tuned. Hopefully that comes together. What else is going on? I can't believe that it's November already. I can't believe it's November 11th already. That's insane. I mean, the year is literally just flown by. So I just wanted to take a moment to, check in with everybody out there, express my gratitude and appreciation for you listening to the Sailor Jerry podcast. We're streaming on YouTube. We're across all major listening platforms, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon, all that good stuff. It's been an incredible year, man. I'm the type of guy that gets a little emotional when a year comes to an end. I like to look back on everything that's gone down and appreciate it and kind of, maybe dissect it a little more than I should. But this year has been an incredible year. So, we'll get into it more maybe on the last podcast of the year. But for now, I'm just feeling a lot of gratitude for everybody out there. And I'm also feeling a moment of, holy shit, the year is almost over. I can't believe it. So without further ado, let's get into episode 23. Jim Lindberg is stepping into the spotlight, ladies and gentlemen. In this awesome episode, I caught up with the legendary laid-back frontman of Southern California punk rock lifers Pennywise to discuss the band's 30-plus year career. We also take a look under the hood of Jim's brand new solo album, a record called Songs from the Elkhorn Trail. Comes out November 19th on Epitaph Records. Jim and I also take a look back and reminisce about the glory days of Los Angeles punk rock and some of the best to ever pick up the microphone. This is an awesome episode, and it was a real pleasure for me to get to sit down with Jim and talk about music. So do yourself a favor. Sit back, relax, pour yourself some Sailor Jerry, and let's go. Yeah. Hell yeah. What's up, Jim?
What's up, Matt?
How you doing, man?
I'm doing all right. I'm here in my office studio in the squeaky chair, so getting the day going. How you doing?
I'm good, brother. I'm good. I really appreciate you taking the time to be on the Sailor Jerry podcast. Means a lot to me, man. Thank you.
Right on. Good to be here, man.
Right on. Before we dive into the solo record, Punk in the Park this last weekend, 12,000 people sold out. It kind of feels like things are slowly but surely getting back to normal. How's it feel for you?
It's crazy. We played a show, a similar one out in Arizona back in May, which was like a ridiculous idea back then, and it was weird how normal it felt. That was the weirdest part about it. I was like, this should feel different. But I guess if you're like me and you've been doing it this long, it's like you get up there and you're on stage. And I don't want to say it's going to work, but it's kind of like I feel like that's the safest place for me up there because it's backstage and doing all the other stuff besides being on stage and performing. That's is the difficult part. Being up there and playing songs and ripping it up with the boys, that's easy shit. So going to Oak Canyon Park this weekend and having everything just flow really smooth and seeing all the smiles and people stoked, it was easy, man. It was really cool.
Yeah, it was a special weekend, man. I got to admit, I was kind of driving up there wondering, Oak Canyon is so far out in the middle of, fucking nowhere. I was kind of wondering what it was going to be like. And I got out there and it was packed and people were stoked. I mean, I got there right when Fear was playing, and there's no better way to arrive at a concert than Fear playing.
Yeah, no shit. I know it was kind of like also there's no signal out there, so you couldn't get a hold of anybody. So, Southern California show, we've got, I think half those 12,000 people were our friends. It's like I had people, you got to get my uncle's brother's cousin's kid in. He's at the gate, and like that's every LA show for us. And that one, they couldn't get a hold of us. So it was just like, you're on your own, fool. Like, good luck. But it still didn't mean that we didn't have 200 people on stage with us. But yeah, it was rad. We had a show in San Diego the night before at Soma, a big anniversary show, and so I rolled in there late. I really wanted to see my boys in Riverboat Gamblers because haven't seen them in a minute, and just tons of great bands. The whole weekend was amazing, and it definitely feels good. It feels like we're slowly coming back.
Right on, man. Yeah, shout out to the Riverboat Gamblers for sure. Austin, Texas. Yeah, it was great to see them. So cool, man. So, Pennywise has been going 30 plus years now. This is your first, solo record, your debut solo record. Songs from the Elkhorn Trail comes out November 19th, which is right around the corner, man. So, first off, congratulations. It's super cool. But let's just dive into the record a little bit. You've released two songs, Palm of Your Hand and You're Not Alone. They're both really, really cool. And I was kind of surprised by the production of them. I was expecting, I think at first for it to be super, super stripped down. And I was really relieved that it had, there's a little bit of juice on it. You got Dave Hidalgo on drums. You got all sorts of cool stuff happening. So let's jump into the record. What was the whole process behind it? How long has it been in the making? Talk to me about it.
Man, that's a loaded question. As far as how long it's been in the making, it's longer than Pennywise has been around because one of the songs on the record is called The Basement, and I wrote it when I started it when I was about 15 years old and first started getting guitars from this local guy. He had a guitar shop down here. We called him Grumpy Bob. And I would go in there all the time and bug him. And he's actually still around. I had no idea. He's still over in Torrance. I had him fix my guitar. And we call him Grumpy Bob because he would just be like, you'd go in there like, don't touch the guitars, and I'd be like, dang, man, like this guy hates me. But he actually was a cool cat and strung up all my guitars for me and started playing. And I lived down in the basement of our house. Your 15-year-old little kid surfing and skating, I couldn't live with my sister and the folks beyond age 15. So I had to move down to the basement. And the basement was like, it basically had a big opening under the house where like raccoons and rats and like everything lived under. We had a giant crawl space under the house. So it was just like living basically outdoor camping underneath the house. It was basically like a storeroom. So I wrote a song when I was 15 about living down there with all the mosquitoes and spiders and bugs and my dad's dirty mags and all the, the leftover beers and stuff like that. And so I started writing this song about it, and I finished it up for this album. So when you ask how long this album's been coming, it's like since I first got a guitar and started writing songs. And that being said, it runs full gamut all the way to, at this point in my life, I've said before that a really big imposing figure on the album is my dad, because he bought me my first guitar. He encouraged me to get my education, and then he encouraged me to quit my job and go on the road with Pennywise. So he was a big influence in my life, and he passed away of Alzheimer's a couple of years ago. And that whole experience for me was, kind of a lot of people go through the big things, changes in life, but that was a heavy one. And to see your dad go through that, and it's a freight train that's coming for a lot of people that we don't know that it's coming until it does. And when it does, it's heavy. And so the album kind of runs that whole thing from the earliest songwriting beginnings and in what I've been doing this whole time, and to the what's happening now. But with Pennywise, I always knew I was writing for a particular audience, and we had a particular target zone for the songs that we wanted to write. I couldn't mess around and do something crazy, and Pennywise Fletcher wouldn't stand for it. If I'm going to bring him a love song or something. This album is a lot more personal, and I think that's reflected in the song. But you mentioned the production on it. That's all, Ted Hutt. I've been stalking the guy for so long to do a record with him, and love the stuff that he's done with Gaslight Anthem, with Dropkick Murphys, with Flogging Molly, Old Crow Medicine Show. He's one of those special producers, and I found it out, the second I got in there working with him. He's fun to talk to. He's got a great worldview, but when it comes time to do the stuff, he's just got that touch that it's hard to find. And that's why I really stalked him to get this thing done, because he would like have me do the song. Okay, do a take and don't think about it. Like, I want you to do this and don't even think about it. All right, that sounded good. Let's try it again. This time I want you to think about it, like every syllable coming out of your mouth. And then, okay, now try it again. This time I want you to pretend you're sitting on the corner of your bed and there's no one around. You have to be really quiet. And so he like got in my head with every take on the song. And so I think that translated to the rest of the record. He wanted everything to really bring the songs to life, and he did that. So I owe it all to Ted.
That's cool, man. Yeah, I think a lot of times when you hear about rock and rollers, punk rockers, kind of going acoustic or something like that, I think you expect something super, super naked almost. And it was really cool to experience the production on the two songs you got out. I was super stoked on that, because it's just got a little more style, it's got a little more juice to it, So I know, like, you wrote obviously a lot of these songs, throughout your life, but did you record it in the studio, or this is kind of like home recording, or what happened?
I started it right here in this office, just playing. I posted some of the songs online, and just right away got a lot of like, dude, you got to put out a album, you got to put out an acoustic album. And I had been threatening it for a long time, because, like anyone else, it sounds corny, but I got acoustic guitars all over this house. They're in my living room, they're in the kitchen, they're in the And so when friends come over, it's not long before, a couple bottles of wine go down and start looking at that guitar like, all right, we can pick it up first, because let's get it going. I got a lot of friends who like to play. So around the campfire, I've got videos and videos of all friends goofing around and playing. And I'm in all kinds of like side project bands. So I've always just been playing. But then when it came time to really do this thing, and I threatened Ted Hutt, a million times that he had to do this thing. Then it got serious, and then, and he came and I went up and met with him out in Eagle Rock at King Size Sound.
Awesome. Yeah, cool.
Studio, and he said, this is where I work out of, and I'm like, dude, like, let's get it on. However you want to do it. If you want to do it here, if you want to do it on the beach, if you want to do it on the mountaintop, you're in charge. And I think I gave him about 25 songs, and he was very instrumental in taking a lot of those songs and saying, like, I like where you're going with this one. This one, it feels like you're trying to be Social Distortion, and like being brutally honest. And I love that, because I was like, damn, dude, you're right. What a dick. Like, why did you say that? And even though I like those songs, I think the songs that he pulled out of me were the more honest ones. And and so that was important, having that guide in the studio. So yeah, it was a full-on studio production.
Awesome, man. Was it when did you record it? Was it a COVID recording or?
Yeah, it was back in May. So things were in crazy time a little bit still, and it was rad though. One thing that was really cool, there's a song on the album called I Feel Like the Sun. It's one that I wrote very late, and I'll get into later about why the album is named what it is, but I ride out in the desert a lot at an old dumpy desert house that we have, and one of the songs I had written and just written it. How sometimes you just write a song and it just comes right out, it's like there's no editing, it just comes right out. And I did that to this song, I Feel Like the Sun, and we went in the studio, and he brought in a strings player playing cello, strings, great guy. And we kind of molded the whole part all together. I had a thing in my head, and then brought in a horn player as well. And that was the first time I ever got to like arrange strings and arrange horns and stuff like that and work with those people. So that experience was really, really cool. The difference of Pennywise, where it's just like, get in there and play it and don't suck,
Yeah.
Try it again. It was kind of cool to have that experience out there. And the only thing I didn't need to have was a drive out to Eagle Rock from the South Bay every day. That was a bitch.
Yeah, that's a doozy, man. When we did the last Bronx record, we did it with Joe Barisi in Pasadena, and driving from Huntington Beach to Pasadena was not fun. We used to have a studio in the valley too, and that's even worse. That part of the 405 right there, it'll make the sanest man absolutely crazy.
I know. Now we're gonna start sounding like the Californians though on Saturday Night Live. I took La Brea down to Sepulveda. But yeah, that's how it is. If you live in, we just did a video for You're Not Alone with a great guy, Robert Whitey McConaughey, rad dude. He did
awesome, cool.
A lot of off videos, and Red Fang, he does videos for those dudes.
Yeah.
And I had to, we were going to, he was shooting it out in Yucca Valley, out by Joshua Tree area. And I had to tell him, like, I wanted to bring him all the stuff that he needed. And I'm like, well, dude, it's either going to take me 2 hours to get to you or about 7. It depends on what time I leave the South Bay at, because there's no easy way to get through LA after 3 o'clock. And so, it's a bitch living here, but I wouldn't have it any other way.
No, yeah, I mean, it's a bitch, but it's also the best, so what are you what are you gonna do?
I know, yeah. You're still at the beach, right? You're in Venice, yeah?
No, I'm in Huntington, man. I'm in the other HB.
Oh,
I'm down. Yeah.
Shit.
Yeah, man. Yeah. So, and that's really cool about the extra, instrumentation on the record, man. I know when we did the mariachi stuff, we had a fucking, what do you call it? The harp, a harpist come in,
Yeah,
and man, I mean, it was unbelievably inspiring just seeing other musicians that you don't, that are kind of out of your wheelhouse in the punk rock world come in and just annihilate a track, or just play some stuff. And you're just like, how the hell are you even doing that?
I
It's
know.
so
It's like, how do you
incredible.
tune that thing, man? And they're like, I mean, let's face it, we're all kind of hacks, we're all doing Ramones and Led Zeppelin songs. And like you see these guys come in and they got their horn or they got their big cello, or in the next studio they had a harp. They were working on some songs in the studio over from us, and I saw them bringing this giant harp in. I'm like, damn, what are you gonna do with that thing? And like, how do you have a harp tech, or what do you do?
Dude, it's so cool. It's the coolest instrument. We also had DJ Bone Break come in and play the xylophone stuff.
Oh wow.
That thing's crazy, man. He sets that thing up and you're just like, what is even happening right now?
Dude, I am the biggest X fan in the absolute world. And I was, coming up back in the day, hate to use that term, but I remember in the hardcore punk scene, like I went to enough hardcore shows, and this is during the suicidal time and the Black Flag time. Like it wasn't so much as a gang fight as it was a concert. It was just
Yeah.
heavy, and like the X shows were my escape from like the fear of getting my ass kicked. I was going to a lot of these shows by myself, and like I had no hood to go around with. My friends were kind of in different scenes, and I had a one buddy that we'd go to shows with, and X ended up being the band I went and saw the most. And all four of them together, uh, you know, it's like each of them, you could go to a show and just stare at Billy Zoom the entire time and be completely entertained,
100%.
or all of them. And I remember one show, they used to play at the country club a lot out in Reseda. I remember watching DJ play, and he was sweating so bad that he had a tap of a sweat coming off his elbow, because he gets into it, he's fucking awesome. And not like a drip, but it was just a stream of sweat pouring off his elbow. And I was like, damn, that is so badass. That guy is working.
Yeah, man. He's an incredible musician, incredible drummer, super fun to watch too. And they are like, they are one of those bands where it's like, the sum of the parts is just so incredible because individually they're just, so unique and so, talented, so creative. And it's like, but when they start playing together, man, it's absolutely incredible. And they still sound fucking great. They still sound really good.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Sure.
they're one of the best for sure. So where did the name for the record come from? I gotta know.
Yeah. My parents have had out in, my dad loved going to Palm Springs. He fashioned himself the Hermosa Beach Frank Sinatra. He loved the Rat Pack and all that thing. And I when he was getting older, I started videotaping him telling stories, because he has this great story of when he snuck into that celebrity golf tournament in the early 80s, and got to pal around with Frank Sinatra, and Frank took him drinking, and just the best day of his life, and it takes him about 5 hours to tell the whole story. And so he ended up getting a little pad out in Palm Desert, kind of by where they do Coachella. It's actually right out in that area in La Quinta. And it's a beat little pad, but during COVID, especially, we've been taking the family out there for years. It's our little vacation spot. And during COVID, it really became a great place for me to go out and write, because it's so dead quiet out there.
Mm-hmm.
And I wrote most of the Pennywise albums or songs that I wrote in my garage here. And I'd have friends coming over like, dude, let's go surf, like, let's go drink, let's go do something. But the wife, the kids got something going on, dentist appointment, and like people coming in, I'll be like, fuck, I was in the middle of writing a song, quit bugging me, like,
Yeah.
and so going out to the desert was just this place where I could just get into it and have that total peace and quiet, turn off the phones and let the shit come to you, because you have to be ready for it. I fucking have a glass of wine, have a little smoke, have a little chill out session, and then the shit starts coming to you. And so that became the place, and it's near this mythological Elkhorn Trail, but I won't get into too much about what that is. But a lot of these songs were written out there in that place and inspired by my dad and his passing. He was in an Alzheimer's center out in that area, La Quinta. So that's where he passed away. There's a song in the album called "Don't Lay Me Down" that's all about that, and it's about how the whole thing, because it was kind of a heavy story. But I just I found out when we put him in the Alzheimer's Care Center, I had to go through all of his stuff, and because we were having to move him down to the desert, and had to go through a lot of his stuff. And I found all this stuff that I didn't know about him by going through his stuff from when he was a kid. I knew that his sister had died in a tragic car accident going to see Louis Armstrong back in the 50s. And she jumped in a ride at the last minute to go see Louis Armstrong play with some peoples that she barely knew, and they got in a car crash on a dark highway, and it was in the papers and all this stuff. But I found this old suitcase of hers that he had kept all this time, and she had written a letter on the day that she passed away to her best friend saying, "I'm going to see Louis Armstrong with these people, not sure what it's going to be like." And I looked up, and the date was my birthday that she died on, that she wrote this letter, and then she died. And I just kind of one of those things where, like, wow, that's trippy. And like, why didn't no one ever tell me this? And then my mom kind of told me, like, yeah, when it was happening, when you were being born, my dad's mom was really upset that you were going to be born on the day that that his sister died, and and all this stuff happened. It ended up being like 2 hours. She ended up dying at 2 a.m. or something like this. So it wasn't actually on my birthday, but she wrote the letter on my birthday, and it was just this kind of heavy thing to find out.
Wow,
so
man.
Put all that in the song, and so in general, the whole album has so much to do with the desert house and finding all this stuff out, and going through all this thing. So it just felt like right when I thought of him, that's the title.
Yeah, man, that's really, really cool. And I appreciate the story, man. That's incredible. And that's, obviously, we're so tied creatively to music, and it's an outlet for us. And it's always so special when you have something like that to turn to when you're going through an experience like that, losing your dad to, a degenerative disease, which is exhausting and heavy as fuck, finding all this stuff out, but yet you still have an outlet, you still have somewhere to go creatively to kind of channel all that energy. That's something to be really thankful for. And something that is really cool as a listener, diving into the record, man, and knowing that there's so much meaning into all of it, it's really, really cool.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. I went down there, and for this song, "Don't Lay Me Down," I sat down in a chair like right when I got there, and this song came pouring out. And by the third verse, I was crying like a little baby, like never cried like this in my life, and definitely felt my dad's presence there. And that grieving process can take a lot of different forms of like, hey man, go out there and write a song, write in your journal what you're feeling, talk to your best friend. You got to let it out, or else you're going to bottle it up inside like palm of your hand. You're going to bottle all that stuff out, and it's going to come out in some weird way that you're not ready for. You're like, God, why did I punch that dude on the freeway that one time? Like, oh, I didn't process my dad passing away.
Yeah, no, it's true, man. It's true. And it's, we're lucky as artists to have that outlet. A lot of people don't have it, and it's easier than you think to just bottle that stuff up, man, and it's that song, "Palm of Your Hand." I definitely got a little bit of that out of it, man. That's really, really cool. When did you, I'm curious because, I think a lot of Pennywise fans might not even really know that you played guitar your whole life and that you've been writing songs for so long. When did music kind of, really take shape for you as a kid? Did you grow up in a musical household, or did you get the guitar from, was it Angry Bob or whatever?
Grumpy Bob.
Grumpy Bob.
Look at it's right here. This is it. This is the guitar I bought, or my dad got for me, and I customized it, as you can see.
Yeah.
It's on the cover of my book. It's got all my daughters holding it up in these pictures. But yeah, basically, look at it. I'm looking around the room. I've got bookshelves and all this stuff around here. This is a book called Nearest Faraway Place. It's about the Beach Boys. It's like one of the best biographies I've ever read. And that's where it starts. My mom bought me a Beach Boys record, Endless Summer, which was a compilation of their greatest hits. And I was just, being raised here at the beach, like my babysitter and different people take us to the beach since we were in diapers, and so we grew up on the beach. And here was this band that's as big as the Beatles at the time, after the 60s and all that. And they're writing songs about surfing and going to the beach. And it's just like, this shit spoke to me. And so to read their whole story, they lived about a mile and a half from here. And Dennis Wilson learned to surf here in Hermosa Beach. So it's like having that around you, and then having Black Flag, Descendants, Circle Jerks go to the same high school that you went to. Hanging out at Hermosa Pier around you, Henry Rollins walking around the 7-Eleven, when you're coming home from school. It's like, it makes you go like, dang, like I can do this, And so that was a big part of it. We come from it's ridiculous, the amount of counterculture craziness that came out of this town, this zip code that we live in. And so in that sense, it was easy. You just had to be someone like me that's just a big mouth ham and not afraid to go out there and make an ass out of himself. And that's how it was early on for me. It's like, I had no fear of getting up there. I knew if someone else wouldn't do it, I'll do it. I'll grab that mic and mess around, see what comes out. So that was the bottom line. And I think, so it was environment, but then also having that desire and that love for music to get out there and start doing it.
Yeah, man, that's really cool. And you're absolutely right. I mean, you come from the generation and the town, that really had so much going on at such an amazing point in time. When you first picked up that microphone, what was your first band? How did you first grab a mic? When did you first start singing?
This is such another goes back to my dad again. I was playing guitar, had a few different guitars, and was really getting into it. Like everyone else, I was surfing, skateboarding, doing all that stuff, playing Little League. And then I just really started getting more and more into music and playing guitar and stuff. And I just told my wife this the other day, I would love to have, if you can travel through time, I'd love to have a camera on me the day that this happened, and just to take a look in that room. Because we have a local newspaper here, and I saw an ad that a band in Torrance was looking for a lead singer. And I can't remember what they wrote in the article. I think they said like The Clash and something else of what they're looking for. And I just I'd never sung a note in my life. And I'm like, I'm going to join that band. And I told my dad, and we went to, and he goes, okay, I'll help you out. Like, what do you need? And I go, I don't know. I guess I need a microphone. And so we went to Radio Shack up here, and they had the shittiest, cheesiest microphone, and they had a PA. It literally was these skinny little speakers and this skinny little, it was basically the PA head was like an AM radio converted, but it was, and just the lamest little thing, but drove me over there, dropped me off, and I went in there with these guys, and we had talked on the phone. They said, I told them to learn "Clamp Down" by the Clash, and a song called "Zero Hour" by the Plimsouls, and and God, what else did we play? I can't remember. We played a few songs. I think like an Elvis Costello song. Can't remember what it was, but just went in there with my PA squeaking and feeding back, and after about the second or third song, like we're like, all right, like we got this, like it started coming together. And so yeah, it was the first thing was just, you got to have that courage, man, to, I don't know where I found it, but it's like, you got to have that courage to grab the mic or grab that guitar. And because stage fright is real. I never really had it, but a lot of people are like, man, I ain't getting up there. And those are the dudes that at the first party you play, they're going to be giving you shit, like, because they don't have the nerve to get up there and do it. And that's why they're like throwing tomatoes at you and shit. But, I remember that the first party that we played, the very first one we played, it was like to my two friends and his mom, like no one showed up. But the second party we played at this house over on 14th Street in Hermosa, and like everyone from high school was crowded in this living room. And I'm like, well, this is it, man. Like, you better show up right now, dude. And like, shaky start, then started coming together. And by the end, everyone was cheering and freaking out. And I'm like, all right, I know what I'm doing.
As you got into the punk rock scene, as a fan, and then, finding your own voice and identity as a singer, who did you listen to? I know you're a big Keith Morris guy. Who were some of your other influences?
Yeah, it's weird. The obvious ones are so obvious,
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Where we grew up, it's ridiculous. And I remember the Descendants playing in a front lawn. I might have been a July 4th, but it was down here, and me being, I'm only a couple of years younger, but me just like lurking around the back of the van trying to say hi to Milo or Bill or someone, and like, get away, kid, so that was reality. Like, I had all these influence all around me, but growing up, weird exposures to my parents' music. There's one song, "You're Not Alone," on the album. My dad listened to a lot of Roger Miller, who wrote that song. He was like the vagabond traveling guy, and he wrote a song called "King of the Road." And he was kind of a Frank Sinatra guy, but he had a little more flair and a little more comedy in his stuff. So when it wasn't for the longest time, I'm like, man, "You're Not Alone" sounds like a Roger Miller song. And then my dad also brought home the Harry Chapin album. His famous song was called "Cats in the Cradle," but it's very much a storyteller song. And I remember being really affected by that song because my dad was a salesman, and and like me later in life, worried about being gone from your kids, "Cats in the Cradle" and that whole thing. And that became such an important song during my whole life. But and Harry Chapin, not a lot of people don't know, he hung out with John Lennon a lot after the Beatles broke up, and they would get hammered up in Sunset Boulevard up in Hollywood together, and they were very instrumental in each other's songwriting, good friends with each other. And so it's a lot of these singer-songwriters. I remember like Jim Croce and guys like that. Like, that's the really old school stuff that sticks in your head, the old AM radio stuff.
Yeah.
That's what I think you hear a lot on this record. That, I mean, a lot of guys from the punk scene, while I love it, I fucking Joey Cape, Tony Sly, like, I love those records. Sometimes they're playing "No Use for a Name" songs acoustic, so
Yeah.
which is, they sound awesome that way. I think when you hear a stripped down version of your favorite song and you're like, wow, this song lives as an acoustic song as well. And that's what Tony did best. Like, he killed it on that stuff and his original stuff. Same with Joey and the stuff Greg Graffin has done. But I very much on this album wanted this one to be like, not that for me, like, here's just me playing Broken, or here's me playing Alien, or or a Pennywise song. I wanted this to like come from like the real place of like this came out of me trying to write something that is personal, that is heartfelt, you know. And a lot of these songs on there, I think that you'll find that some of it's storytelling. There's one song on the album that's called Good Enough, that's kind of a Sid and Nancy story, you know, that type of thing. And same with Palm of Your Hand. Those are made up characters where I took a riff and just said, you know, you kind of go like, what is this saying to me? You know, like, what is this, the line that I had written the chorus, but what does this feel like it's about? And come up with a character that is acting out in certain ways because they're compensating for something, you know. And so that's I think you can kind of explore more stuff with the acoustic guitar and with when you're doing songwriting away from your day job.
Yeah, it's cool, and it's rad that you have different influences. You know, like you have, you know, obviously you grew up in a certain scene and approaching things that way when it comes to, you know, singing in Pennywise or just, you know, anything that's really aggressive or electric. But you also have a whole nother background of music that you grew up on and listened to and have been inspired by, that kind of molded the direction you wanted to go for this debut, you know, for the solo record. So it's really cool. It's really cool to have that. What about lyrics? Who are some of your like favorite writers? I know you went to UCLA, right? You're a college guy.
Yeah.
So I know lyrics got to mean a lot to you. You know, one of the things I loved about punk was, you know, it felt like anything you said had value as long as you were being truthful about it. You know, it was all about just being honest. Is that something that kind of translates to you? And writing for this record, obviously with a lot of influences, you know, coming from your dad and all that stuff. What were the differences between writing for this record and writing for a Pennywise record?
Exactly. And a big difference, you know. I've said before with Pennywise, um, I was really inspired when I got to UCLA. I took a class. I know you're going to think I set up all these props, but they're all well, I have to keep all this stuff all around me. And this guy, Ralph Waldo Emerson, I had an American Transcendentalism class, and he's probably one of the most quoted American philosophers out there because him, Thoreau, they were all starting this movement back in the colonial days where they were kind of getting away from the traditional church. Obviously, the church was this huge monolithic influence on American way of life during this time and everything that was going on back then. And they were the ones that were kind of that were breaking away, saying like, you know, we need to take it out of the church and into nature. If you want to know God, you need to go into nature. And then also Thoreau developed the whole idea of civil disobedience that inspired Gandhi, that inspired Martin Luther King. And these were like the real pioneers of punk rock thought to me. Like I heard Emerson say every man must be a nonconformist, it was like listening to Keith Morris or Hayes or any of my heroes. Of like, that was just a very colonial way of saying do what the fuck you want, you know. And so they were the punk rock philosophers for me, and just really got into all of their readings. I have tons of Emerson, Thoreau books. I just went and visited Thoreau's cabin for the second time in my life, you know. So I'm a total nerd when it comes to that stuff and unapologetic. And, you know, I know Fletcher gives me a hard time about being college boy, you know, and whatnot, but I don't give a fuck. You know, I love Kurt Vonnegut. I love John Updike is one of my favorite authors, David Eggers. You know, I'm just really into being inspired by authors. And so I put a lot of that into my Pennywise lyrics and songwriting. And also I had a Catholic upbringing, was an altar boy at American Martyrs Church in Manhattan Beach and Our Lady of Guadalupe in Hermosa Beach. Shout out. My first band played a battle of the bands at the Our Lady of Guadalupe Church Rec Center to about 10 people. And we also played in a battle of the bands with Motley Crue before they.
What?
Yeah. crazy. And we lost so bad. And they kicked everyone's ass because they had already had like God, that one song.
They had pyro. They had pyro battle bands.
They had it all. And we just came out with like, 16 years old, like, dang, we can play Clampdown, that's about it. Yeah, so they smoked us. But yeah, the whole church thing, the religious thing, I was a born again Christian for a while, backslid out of that. My mom still has hope for me. I might be coming back someday, but um, just having all that kind of tangled up in there. I wrote a lot of songs about religion and God and Pennywise and all that type of stuff. So these philosophers really spoke to me a lot because they were kind of struggling with it too, and our perception of who God is, and their idea really was God is the universe, which you hear by a lot of people who are struggling with spirituality, of going like, yeah, I don't really believe that God is some guy making rules up there for me in a white coat and a long white beard, but I do kind of believe in the sacredness of the universe and this great unknown that we don't know. So where do I find some spirituality somewhere? So they kind of like connected the dots for me at a impressionable age, and the rest of the stuff on the acoustic album is really just life experience, suffering the hard knocks of life and writing a song about it.
Yeah. Do you think obviously I don't know exactly what the phrase is, but they say that you have your whole life to write your first record. You know what I mean? Because it's everything that you've done up to that point. But obviously it seems like this is something that you're really good at, something that you enjoy. I saw you just announced a show at Dropkick Murphys, so you're going live now. You're going live. Is this something that you're hoping to continue, as life goes on? Because like you're saying, you got the guitar on the wall, you got the place in the desert. You're a professional musician at this point in your life. You're very accomplished. Is there going to be more solo records down the line?
Yeah, unfortunately, there's going to be a lot more. I really got to show, post some pictures of. I have two big cardboard boxes full of cassette tapes of songs I've written over the years. And I'm not lying, dude. This is a box full of cassette tapes, Maxell black tapes, none of them marked or have a word on them. So I don't know what's on it. I just know that those are two sides of 60 minutes apiece of songs that I wrote in the garage, staring at the wall, waiting to write the next song. And so I've got a bunch of songs on there where, and let's face it, I've been writing songs for Pennywise since 1990. And there was many times where I'd write a song and write it all the way out and be like, this is a damn cool song. Fletcher will never play this song in his life. Like, I couldn't believe when I wrote Alien, the song Alien, and it was during a tough time in my life, and after Jason, our bass player, passed away, and it's kind of ironic. I was writing that song Alien because the guys from Blink and Unwritten Law were always talking about the aliens. And specifically, Tom from Blink was always talking that the aliens are coming. I'm like, dude, you guys got to shut up with all this alien shit. That stuff's a hoax, man. And so I wrote this song about that. Basically, I was coming from the point of like, why would the aliens want to come here? We're all so fucked up, and this is a cold, hard world, and they should turn around and go somewhere else. We're the fucking aliens. We all alienate each other and treat each other like shit, And I'm like, here's the saddest, most depressing song I've ever written, Pennywise. What do you guys think about this? And I'm like, you never want to play this song. And Fletcher's like, no, that's a good song. We should play it. I'm like, all right, But the ironic part now is that now all of a sudden Tom's like proving his point.
Yeah, Tom's been on that alien game for a long time. He's been on that game for a long time.
And he's right. He's proven it now, that fucker. I'm like, damn, I guess I shouldn't have been so on my high horse about telling him there's no aliens out there. But yeah, I can't even begin to think of that, dude. That's one of those blow your mind things of where like shit, I can't even go there.
Yeah. Do you think we're alone in the universe, Jim? Do you think? Do
I
you
think
think that?
I like the theory that that's us. How many thousands of years from now coming back to check in on us and right at a pivotal time, like, dude, you guys are about to fuck shit up really bad. So we had to travel back in time in our little space balls and deprogram your nuclear so no, you don't blow each other up. I think that's a lot more likely than someone from another galaxy, but who knows? It's a little sketchy. I'm going to listen to Tom from now on. He's going to tell me like it is.
Yeah, Tom will guide us. Tom will guide us to the promised land. Growing up in Hermosa, did you see what bands did you see that were great? Have you seen all lineups of Black Flag?
Oh, hell no. No.
No?
No, I was you know what? Black Flag played at Pollywog Park a few blocks from my house. It's probably I don't know if you can see in the back.
Oh, another prop.
I'm gonna run over there and get it. This is them playing at Pollywog Park.
Yeah.
Yeah, you might have seen that picture.
Yep.
They played a few blocks from my house and I didn't even know it. And it was like that band was something that came up right around when we were all getting into this, starting to hear the Ramones for the first time. I went to Music Plus, found the Sex Pistols album and bought it just because it looked rad. And then Recycled Records was right next door, and they had the first little 7-inch that I bought, and then I joined their fan club and started getting the flyers and stuff like that. But even at that point, well, my parents were like, "Yeah, you're not going to Hollywood and see some band." You know, I was still on the younger side, but definitely saw my share of shows, but didn't get to see enough Black Flag. I just had to miss the boat on them. Even though I was the hugest fan, it was like kind of out of the realm for me. And they were just getting that point where it was really tough for them to play, right when that was happening. Later on, the Rollins scene later on, when that all came in, that was kind of past my pay grade. But saw some Descendant shows, saw some tons of X shows, saw some random shows at different places. But I was kind of like into all kinds of stuff. There's after the punk scene came, there was a huge rockabilly scene, and X was kind of on part of that a little bit as well. But you had like the Blasters.
Yeah.
You had this band called the Red Devils, James Infeld. I got super into that. And so, because the hardcore scene for me, like, I just had a sister growing up. I didn't have a bunch of big brothers to, kick people's ass at shows. And the shows in LA were violent as hell. They were just crazy. And so, I kind of got into different kinds of music and basically heard about the shows the next day.
Yeah.
Went to some shows and got too hammered and ended up, sleeping in someone's car in the parking lot or something like that. But, that was just the golden era for a lot of these bands and for us coming up. But Fletcher has a lot more stories of Black Flag shows than I do. But I was the bedroom fan for the hardcore scene,
Yeah. Hey, that makes sense, man. Did you see the Ramones at all?
Saw the Ramones later on, not early.
Yeah, they're one of my. I had a couple chances to see them on like the Adios Amigos and the Acid Eaters or whatever. And I always just thought I'd see them, and then all of a sudden, it's just like, and the same thing with the Stones too, man. When Charlie Watts died, I was so bummed that I'm never gonna get to see him with the complete lineup. It's just like, what are you doing with your life? How have I not seen the Stones? They've been around forever.
I know. It's a trip. I've never seen them one time. I was just telling someone the other day, it's like, fuck, I've never seen the Stones. I think when you become a musician, you play so many shows, you forget that you got to go. But luckily, my My daughters now, all of them really into music. I went to Phoebe Bridgers the other night, saw her at the Greek. They're turning me on to all these cool bands and different things. Got really into music. My one daughter wrote for the college music newspaper, so that's really a cool turn of events. But yeah, it's a trip having so many different musical influences
Yeah.
and the rockabilly thing was really like roots music. I really got into that, because like I said, don't want to overstate it, but I think even the guys, the people in X I've heard talk about it, like, man, the scene got so crazy violent. It's like you couldn't go to watch the bands, you just go and try not to get stabbed or like in some gnarly fight, and it was, you can romanticize a lot, but for a kid like me, is like, hey man, I'll go to this rockabilly show, man. They seem to be dancing and dressing up nice, and everyone's they're kind of more into the car scene and whatnot. I had an old '65 Chevy, and I was more into wearing my pompadour and my creepers and shit like that than getting my ass kicked by a bunch of thugs.
Yeah, it was really bad even when I was first started going to shows in I don't know, mid 90s, something like that. It was still really, really violent. And in Orange County, there was so many skinheads still everywhere. I mean, they got weeded out over the years, but it was crazy. And I can only imagine what, a decade earlier, 10 years earlier, LA, something like that just must have been absolute madness. I mean,
Yeah, and that's what in our band it got that way too. Hey, we were the problem, man. The South Bay area was like knows the stories, like the guys that a lot of them rest in peace, but they were the troublemakers, and hey, you can't blame everything on upbringing, but a lot of them came from broken homes, and all they knew was fighting. And then when we started coming up, 1992, riots happening, it was
yeah.
a powder keg in California, everywhere, but just during that time, and it had to blow, and that's where at that point, it was like you look around and go like, hey man, I'm sitting here singing songs about peace, and we gotta stop wars and government corruption, man. Like, this is not the good fight that I came in for, and it was a difficult time, but this is the wild, wild west out here, we don't have it dialed in yet.
No, and it is crazy. I remember, I grew up in Pico Rivera, just kind of outskirts of East LA area. And, in 92, before the riots broke out, my older sister had been like dying to see Phantom of the Opera. She like was obsessed with it. Right. And we didn't have that much money. My dad was out of work at the time. It was like this big deal. We got tickets for everyone to go see Phantom of the Opera. And it was the day that the Rodney King verdict came out, and we were kind of watching everything unfold, and it was just like, no, this is not happening. We're not driving up there right now. And I'll never forget it, because it was, if you were there, if you lived in Los Angeles, it's just a day that you'll never forget. It's like, I just remember it, what turned into all of us going up to see Phantom of the Opera. We were all just around the TV for the next couple of days, just watching, the city burn. And it was so crazy. But that whole era of just, the LAPD and fucking Daryl Gates and all that shit was so gnarly, man. It was so crazy in LA at that time. And it was something that I'm super thankful to have been around for, to experience, because it was life-changing in a lot of ways, man. But for me as a kid, watching it go down on TV, there's so much insane imagery from those couple days. Never forget it.
Oh man, I was getting married that weekend, bro.
What?
Yeah. I was getting married that weekend. I was working. I was working out in Santa Monica, and I was getting married that weekend, and to my wife of all this time, and worked with all these great people at this advertising gig, suit and tie job, everything, and playing shows with Pennywise at night, coming in with a broken nose, and it was crazy. Like my assistant's a punk rocker. Like, this isn't fair, and so that day, I worked with this really nice girl, this black girl. She was actually from Nigeria, super cool chick. And when the verdicts came out, she goes, "You white people need to go home right now." She said, "You guys need to get in your car and go home." And I'm all, "For real?" And she's like, "Yeah, you guys need to go home. Shit's going to get crazy right now." So we literally did. Got in my truck, driving home back to the South Bay from Santa Monica. I come around that turn out of onto Lincoln, and there is a black dude and a white dude in the middle of the intersection squaring off. And I just drive by like, fuck, it is on, I guess. It was crazy. And then just did the same as you, sat around the TV wondering, what's going to happen next. And then went up and got married with the liquor stores burning in the background. It was crazy. It's Los Angeles is a crazy place to live, but it's in our blood here. Being the Dodger fan, I don't think there's a bigger Dodger fan team than the Bronx and Pennywise. So
yeah, absolutely. We were in Australia together on a couple brutal Dodger losses. That was
God, don't even go there.
Yeah, right on, Jim. Well, I don't want to take too much more of your time, brother. I really appreciate you being on the podcast. One thing I just wanted to ask to get perspective on is, I mean, for me personally, going through the Bronx, we're coming up on 20 years in 2023, which is crazy to think about. But longevity is such an amazing thing to be a part of in music and in a band and anything that you work so hard for. From when you picked up your first guitar as a kid, 30 years of Pennywise, surviving the 90s, surviving a pandemic, getting your solo record out. When you look back on everything, like what is music, what's music mean to you at this moment of your life?
Wow, that's a big question. It's everything. It's going back to the Beach Boys book, and it's the soundtrack of our lives. And that's the first thing that I connected when I heard the Beach Boys the first time, of like, hey man, this guy's just singing a song about what I'm living, man. I love the beach and girls in bikinis and surfboards, and this is my life. And then being turned on to different schools of thought, and putting that out there, or just playing a high school party and just having that rush of playing the Clampdown by the Clash and having everyone stoked on it, and just the whole experience. It's been the soundtrack to everything I've done, from family to friends to music, and then, like you said, last Saturday night, just being there with so many people in Southern California, still vibing on it. It's a great feeling. So there's been some tragedy along the way. Lost some really great people and very influential, important people in my life. But like the song says, you got to remember the good times. And so there's a song for the good times, the bad times, the sad times, the funny as hell times, and that's what's really made it all meaningful. So yeah, music's everything. You know that.
I do, my man. Right on, Jim. I appreciate your time, brother. Thank you so much, and congratulations on the solo album, Songs from the Elkhorn Trail. Yes, November 19th. Hell yeah, my man. Congratulations, brother.
Right on, Matt. Good talking to you, brother.
You too. Peace.
All right.
Oh, yeah. That's a wrap on episode 23 of the Sailor Jerry podcast. As always, huge amounts of respect, love, and appreciation for our guest, the one and only Jim Lindberg of Pennywise. Jim, thank you so much for your time, my man. Congratulations on the solo album coming out November 19th on Epitaph Records. Songs from the Elkhorn Trail. Awesome time talking to Jim. What a great dude. You can follow him at Jim Lindberg PW on Instagram. You can follow Pennywise at _Pennywise on Instagram. And all you got to do to get a hold of Jim is just either Google Pennywise, Google Jim Lindberg. You know, you're only a couple clicks away out there on the internet, ladies and gentlemen. So figure it out. All right. You can also follow at Sailor Jerry, of course, at 213 Mattman. And don't forget, Sailor Jerry's Spice Drum is made the old school way. 92 proof, bold and smooth as hell. We'll see you in 14 days. Peace.
Sure.